Welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast, the variety show for all things Airtable. In each episode, we cover 4 different segments. It's always fresh and different, and lots of fun while you get the insider info on all things Airtable. Our hosts and guests are some of the most senior experts in the Airtable community. Join us live each week on our YouTube channel every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and join our active community at BuiltOnAir.com. Before we begin, a word from our sponsor, On2Air Backups. On2Air Backups provides automated Airtable backups to your cloud storage for secure and reliable data protection. Prevent data loss and set up a secure Airtable backup system with On2Air Backups at On2Air.com. As one customer, Sarah, said, having automated Airtable backups has freed up hours of my time every other week and the fear of losing anything. Longtime customer David states, On2Air Backups might be the most critical piece of the puzzle to guard against unforeseeable disaster. It's easy to set up, and it just works. Join Sarah, David, and hundreds more Airtable users like you to protect your Airtable data with On2Air Backups. Sign up today with promo code BuiltOnAir for a 10% discount. Check them out at On2Air.com. And now let's check out today's episode and see what we built on air.
Welcome in to the Built on Air podcast, season 23, episode 8. This will be the last official episode for this season, but you may see us in between. So good to be with you, Dan Fellers, Camille Parks, Ali Losa, and special guest Rob Weidner. Welcome in, Rob.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Back. Been on the show before, so we're excited to get an update on what's going on with Rob. He's got some exciting stuff that he's going to show us. But a couple of things going on that we wanted to make you aware of. And so there's 2 hackathons coming up. One official one from Airtable. That one's on site in New York. Dates again. What are the dates on that?
March 1st.
March 1st?
As the beginning of when you could do your submissions. And then
the Airtable one.
Oh, okay. There's too many.
I know.
I think the Airtable one's the 19th, I think.
Okay.
But I don't know.
So that, if you're on site in New York there, you could do that. Big prize money for that one. But there's also a community-driven one. Ali, you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, as Camille had just started saying, the window for the community-led hackathon opened on March 1st. So this goes until March 17th. And during that time, you can build and submit a Airtable base video that goes along with it if you go to the website, which
I'll post it in the link right here.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan. You can submit, and all the rules are there. There's several prizes. There's several categories of prizes, and one of those categories is a jury-led selection. And for the second time, Camille and I are working together on that jury, along with Erica Pasquale, who won 2 out of the 3 prizes last time with her dodgeball base, which was super, super cool. So we're really excited. The theme this year, we actually did a theme this time. Last year it was wide open. This time we chose a theme because a lot of people submitted games. There was a huge percentage of them were games or just fun themed bases or builds. So the theme is called Let's Play. So anything that makes you think of or inspiration that you drive from that, we'd love to see. And this is all really spearheaded by Mike Simmons, I should say. Mike Simmons of Automatic Nation. Check him out on LinkedIn and check out the website that Dan just posted in the comments. We're excited.
Yeah. Rob might have something to submit to that. Yeah.
I know I'm on the jury, but I want to submit one as we're obviously not going to vote for this one, but I've already built my own sort of game recreation in Airtable and just, for the funsies of it all.
Yeah.
You should.
Totally.
There's the two other categories are the AI. There's an AI prize that's chosen by Airtable themselves, and then there's a community chosen prize. So just the most liked submission. So
You could put it under a pseudonym, Camille. No. Maybe we've talked about this. Maybe we'll do a special podcast and go through what you built as maybe motivation for others.
Yeah, I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah. So we'll do something like that. We'll definitely highlight the participants and winners, and So check that out. Hackathon.airtabletemplate.com. And the submission is there. So anytime between now and March 17th. So be sure to submit yours, and we'll highlight them once they are coming in. So cool. With that, we've got Rob on. Rob has dived deep into the weeds of AI and building, and before we get into some of the cool stuff that he's been working on, we thought we'd talk a little bit about kind of the state of AI and some of the projects that are out there. Rob, what are your thoughts on having spent some time in this world?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely an exciting time. It brings me back to 10 plus years ago when Airtable kind of first launched, and it was kind of the first of these accessible, easy to kind of use and understand databases, I think, in general, that people could have access to. And it kind of, there was this progression between or from Excel sheets to Google Sheets. And then as soon as it was in a Google Sheets, it was online, and that was pretty awesome, And then there was FileMaker, which was, as we know, the Scotts of the world, the Scott Roses of the world, the geniuses behind FileMaker. But then then Airtable kind of became this always on database thing. So I think we had this wave of AI with the chat GPTs and the chat interfaces with AI. And I think we're in this next wave of AI. We're now that we're really kind of leaning more into AGI and more actual agentic artificial intelligence. I think it's this next big wave. And so I'm just hoping that, I'm confident that it's going to be the future. It's been extremely helpful for me. And I've even been telling people with some of the, with the tools that are out there and with the workflows that are out there now, it feels for the first time, computers and systems have been able to actually keep up with my brain. And I've been able to actually be able to legitimately kind of, work on multiple things at one time. And whereas it would have been a lot of people talk about context overload, and context in general when it comes to AI is very important to talk about and to understand. But I actually feel it's context switching is extremely taxing, but it's nice to be able to kind of, for me at least, offload my ideas and offload my internal context and just put it into somewhere else and just know that it's there. And I guess that's that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to actually tackle right now is how do we have the trust and the confidence to know that when we put something into this AI / agent world, how can we actually trust it? And I think, we're all systems people here. We're all kind of computer people. And so when you talk to the computer, you kind of expect the computer to do what you ask it to do. And that's the beauty of computers. That's the beauty of calculators and things, things like that. So, I think that's the biggest thing that we all should be worried about right now is it's great that these AIs can take a lot of authority for us on our behalf, but from a trust standpoint and from a risk standpoint, I don't know, there's an inherent risk. And when it comes to risk mitigation and all that stuff, I think that's where a lot of the conversation should be actually going into now, because the technology is growing exponentially and it's growing with itself, right? AI is self-improving itself. And so I think we as the humans need to like be talking a lot more about risk mitigation and talk about how do we control this uncontrollable thing? I don't know. So that's kind of my 2 cents, I guess.
That makes sense to me. I mean, one of the biggest things when you work as part of a team is you should be able to check each other's work just to make sure everything comes out right. And, if you're working with a team of people, it's, you're only human. A mistake is going to come in there, at some point. Today, AI is still built by humans. So by its very nature, it's going to mess up every now and again as well. So as long as you can use it as a tool and just do your own due diligence at what it outputs for you, you're probably in the clear. You just, you keep your one hand on the steering wheel. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I've been kind of like telling people that like we're in this transition where like we used to have atlases and like maps, and then we got like MapQuests, and then we got TomToms and Garmin's and things like that. And then, nowadays the maps are kind of the context, and the maps are actually kind of irrelevant. What's actually important is the directions that we kind of are taking. And so maps are kind of like becoming this thing of the past, but maps are what are fueling the directions of like getting us from point A to point B. And we've inherently just trusted that like when we get directions to something, it's going to take us to where we want to get to. And I think that like we're not there yet with AI, but we're at the point where we know that AI can define a couple different ways to get to an endpoint. We just need to like influence it a little bit. So I kind of like think of this analogy of like taxi drivers, like there's taxi drivers, and then there's like a Waymo or a Subway or something. It's like the Subway's only going to go in this like line of the Subway, like it's not going to take a left or a right to like miss something, unless it's given some direction to kind of like reroute itself. Whereas like a taxi driver who knows the back streets or, knows its way to get around town and knows how to get around traffic and knows when school's about to be out and all that's like, there's that human aspect to it, of that like human intuition. But there's a ceiling to that. And there's a ceiling to like a taxi driver doesn't necessarily know if there's a traffic accident, 1 mile ahead, because that's happening in real time, and they might not have access to like that real time information. And that's where like the computers and the systems come into play.
Yeah. My thought was question for you is, so Rob is the one that built the Olympic Games app. We highlighted it a couple weeks ago. Very impressive, very cool stuff. Built on Airtable, but vibe coded or AI generated on top of that. Where do you see the Airtables of the world fitting in this world of AI? It's very interesting dynamic. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are, when it comes to AI, right? It's all about the context, right? It's all about like the information that we're giving this AI in order to get an output from the AI. And the better the information that we can give it, usually the better the information that comes out of it. And that's just kind of like a system in general, right? Like the better the plan for something is, the better usually the outcome is of whatever goal you're trying to accomplish. And so I think Airtable is uniquely positioned as an established single source of truth for information, for businesses, for personal use, for whatnots. Like it's established itself as a single source of truth. And in this AI world, like where we have to have the confidence of what is true. Like I've been experimenting and playing around with like OpenClaw, right? For example, which is this like incredible AI open source, like personal assistance, quote unquote, right? And one of the things that I tried to have it do for me was research some topics and some people that I wanted to kind of like on a daily basis, give me an update and like, let me know if anything is new has happened in the news throughout the night or something. Right. And so you kind of just like chat to it and you like, give it to that, you just like, here, do this. This is what I want, And then you wake up the next morning and the like thing you asked for like isn't there, you know, like your research isn't there. And it's like, why is it not here? You know, like, you know, or it's there, but it's only there for like 2 of the 10 people, you know? And it would be nice to just have a table of records of people that I want to keep track of. And whenever I want to add a new person, I just have to like add a new record to a table. Or whenever I tell it to do something, there's some sort of like visual feedback and confirmation of like, okay, this is the list of people that I'm going to like research every single night. And so taking that back to like the Airtable side of things, I think Airtable as it relates to AI, like big AI in general, is very, very uniquely positioned to already be that single source of truth and already be in a like in businesses and organizations as an organized context. And so I think if we can figure out how to like harness that that context and harness the information that is already being interpreted as the truth, I think it's got legs to actually be a leader in the AI space. Yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just this like hybrid approach of like the no code aspect of the Airtable with the, especially like the interfaces, and then putting the custom, because like for your example with the Olympic Games, in theory, you could have built that all standalone, you know, on its own. Like, what would be the pros and cons of taking that approach versus doing what you did to build it on Airtable?
Yeah, I mean, it was about speed. Like, it was about pace. It was about speed. It was like, how quickly can I actually create something that's valuable? And that's something that's not specific. Like, that concept is not specific to Airtable, or sorry, to AI. Like, how do I build something as valuable as possible and like in as least amount of time is not unique. And so a lot of the like, when I was thinking about how I was going to build this, and a lot of times when I think about these like complex problems, I always try to boil it down and break it down into like, okay, like what's simpler here? Like what's already been done? What's the existing mental model that people are already used to when it comes to looking at data visualized for the Olympics? And, you know, so thinking about like, okay, medal counts are usually pretty important, and thinking about like news, thinking about, like all this stuff that's like, it's essentially data. Like all this is just data. And so I was like, okay, I can put this all into Airtable. I can organize this all because I have the muscle memory myself of like establishing an Airtable base or a database in general for this. But I needed to move fast, like, because the like opening ceremonies were in like 3 days or 2 days from the time I started building it. And so, but I had work to do, like I had other work to do and everything. So I really kind of, you reach into your toolbox, and at the same time, you like, one of the things that I always say is like the most valuable lesson that I learned from my like amazing 4-year university degree that I was fortunate enough to get was not my like computer science degree. It was, I learned how to learn things. And I think that like, that couldn't be more true and more valuable right now than like it was, I don't know, 15 years ago, of like learning how to learn things is actually extremely important. And when we had like our, like whenever we had exams or projects or anything, it was all like open book, open online resources, open friends, open whatever. Like it was, use the tools that are available to get to like the desired outcome within some constraints. And so it was nice to have some constraints, but at the same time, it was nice to be able to like reach into my toolbox as well as say, what things can I add to my toolbox to make my toolbox more valuable? And that's where I really kind of just leaned heavily on Claude Code. I leaned heavily on skills within Claude Code. I leaned heavily on MCP servers to be able to kind of use AI as this like thought partner. And then, it was like a constant back and forth of me kind of doing some work, handing it off, it doing some work, handing it back off to me, me doing some work, handing it off, and so I think like there's still a lot of value in the human aspect and the human involved in this process. So yeah, I don't know.
Cool. Any other topics or questions before we move on to some of the stuff you've been working on?
I had an urban planning analogy. At some point, you reminded me of my first sort of foray into the world of AI was with self-driving cars, and urban planners were sort of tasked with thinking of how does this affect how we write rules about what you can do in a city and where do cars go. And at one point, I don't know what the general consensus is anymore, but we were like, well, you still got to park the car somewhere. You can't eliminate the concept of garages unless you build them like the perpetual train from Snowpiercer. They have to stop at some point. And the interplay between Airtable and AI, there's always going to be value in things like Airtable of, I just need to look at a list of stuff really quick. And then Airtable does a lot of other things nowadays, especially with interfaces. We're going to see some that Rob built completely custom using AI to help. But no matter what you're building with AI, you're probably going to have some data that you need to store somewhere. And it's helpful if your database is already AI enabled. So you get the leg up there of not having to get several tools to sort of jam together to make the thing that you're making. Airtable is pretty well suited for certain use cases to do most of what you need off the top.
Yeah, I'm excited for what comes next. I mean, the deep match thing is super exciting. Like I can't wait until I can have it like make decisions based off of the whole data set, like actionable decisions. But yeah, I could go on. I'm excited to see what you've got to show, Rob.
Yeah, so let's see. Why don't we start with HyperAgent? Let's start with HyperAgent. If you want to get that ready. So HyperAgent, we talked about a week or two ago, recently released. Well, not released. It's still in private beta. So this might be a sneak peek. It'll be the first time I've seen it. I signed up for the wait list and am not yet added. So I'm excited to see this. So Rob, if you want to share your screen.
Yeah.
Get it on there. And so this is it. This one we talked about. This one is under the name of Airtable, and it says it's from Airtable, where SuperAgent is kind of under its own name. It didn't have the Airtable owner on it. So HyperAgent. Yeah.
So
okay, here it is.
I was gonna try and like pull open the like website for it. I could probably just log out real quick. So HyperAgent. So yeah, there's a distinct difference between HyperAgent and SuperAgent, right? So HyperAgent. Let's actually just talk about SuperAgent real quick. SuperAgent is this idea of essentially this like research assistance. A lot of what's actually been put into Airtable's built-in AI functionality and features, in terms of the field agents, in terms of like those individual like research components of Airtable, is actually a lot of what SuperAgent is in the background. And SuperAgent was Deep Sky, which was a company that they acquired, and so SuperAgent in its pieces is in Airtable in different pieces, but SuperAgent as a tool and as a product is like all of those things put together. And so you can create like slide decks and you can create like reports and things like that, right? So it's more this like research agent for you. Whereas HyperAgent is really this like idea and this concept of the orchestration layer of AI agents at an enterprise level. And so it's something that that Howie is working on personally, and some of his other team members on his the AI team at Airtable. And so if we log into this, you'll see like a lot of the commentary on HyperAgent that they're saying is, okay, it's great to have all these AI agents, but if you don't have this orchestration layer behind all these AI agents to actually know and control what's going on, then it becomes, noisy and hectic essentially. And so they've, kind of come up with some like recommended agents up at the top here. And essentially what's going on in the background of HyperAgent is it's linked to a tool called Composio. And Composio is essentially this like tool that allows you to connect your agents to a whole bunch of different things. It's like a whole bunch of different MCPs. So it's kind of like an MCP as a service. And so when you hop in here, you can see this integrations table here, and you can see like all of these integrations. So I can browse like 1,000 integrations. 1,000 integrations here. So you can see like Perplexity, Google Docs, HubSpot, etc. And so the cool thing about HyperAgent is that similar to things like OpenClaw and similar to things, there's a couple other tools out there, like Twin, Tasklet, and even your like OpenAI, your ChatGPTs and your Claudes. They do have some ability to connect to MCP servers to be able to kind of do AI things with integrations and whatnot. But HyperAgent's cool in that it's this like layer on top of all that to just do agentic things. So I actually just I created an agent here, which is a BuiltOnAir podcast prep agent. And so you can see like, it's an actual agent. Like this is an actual agent. This is an actual AI agent. So it's not just a chat window. It's not just, this is an actual agent. And we can see that this agent has usage, right? So it's actually been like calling certain AI endpoints. It's giving us the cost of those endpoints. And then I had it, you can see here, like you can hook it up to Slack, you can schedule jobs, you can have it be hooked up to webhooks so that whenever anything comes into this, it'll do something. Again, email, SMS, like MC, you can create your own MCP server for this agent specifically. So it's kind of trying to extrapolate all these individual pieces that are going into AI agents and giving it back to the user to say, hey, you can actually create your own. Again, taking the analogy of you can have your Excel spreadsheet if you want to, but if you want to have your data structured, always online, always secure, you don't have to worry about all that stuff, like then use Airtable for that as one example. This is their kind of answer. This is Airtable's answer to, at least this is my understanding. This is my interpretation, just to be clear. This is my interpretation of it as well. And so I just did like one quick research agent as well. So this is the research agent for the BuiltOnAir like agent itself, and it actually went through and it found like a whole bunch of like 5 potential guests. So Chris Chang, who's the Deep Sky CEO, Alan Barter, who's head of AI at Airtable, and then some builders as well, some like builders and company. Ben Green got put in here, and Dimitri Shapiro, and so HyperAgent actually went out and did all of this for me on my behalf. And then you can even, create websites from this. You can create videos, you can create images, audio, slides, tables, etc. So it's pretty cool. It's very much in beta, but yeah, I'm happy to kind of answer any questions or poke around if you guys want to see anything else.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like, so it's more of a toolkit that you can build on top of. Does it connect to Airtable?
Yeah, so you can connect it to Airtable. So you can, feature connection, connect to Airtable. So you can connect it to Airtable, but you can also connect it to like Databricks and Snowflake and some other, some other like data sources as well.
Linear.
Yeah, linear. Go linear. Connected. There it is.
So
Yeah.
if you had a particular agent and you like wanted it to be focused on a particular data set, like that integration, can you be like, for this agent, use this set of data?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can see like this agent has like access to do all of these things. You can see like Snowflake and Databricks down here as well. And then there is a way. I haven't poked around and played as much as I should. But yeah, there is a world where you then can say, this agent, at least I would like, that would make sense. Like that's kind of one of the bigger concepts that I've been admittedly like struggling to handle and manage is, all these different projects that I'm working on. I want to make sure that the individual projects have guardrails to them in that they only have access to certain MCP servers, certain API endpoints, certain tokens, and like there isn't cross-pollination between all that. And that's definitely something that I've been seeing as a huge risk for people that are just jumping right into things like OpenClaw or Claude Code or whatnot. And they're just kind of feeding it, access tokens, and they're feeding it, all these different things. And if you're not neat and organized, you can very easily not realize that your AI is actually has access to something that you don't want it to have access to. And then that's kind of where it gets back to like the trust and like the guardrails of this whole thing that I'm really, excited to dive into and try and do my part to help out with that.
Yeah, the principles of app design haven't really changed, whether you build it yourself or you use AI to help you. You can't just be giving out API tokens and things like that willy-nilly. You absolutely cannot just grant an agent or a person, hey, yeah, look at all of my databases, get full write access to everything I own. Don't do that. Recipe for disaster.
Oh my goodness. Did you see the thing about a guy that like tried to like vibe code himself a little app to control his robot vacuum, and he ended up with control of like all the robot vacuums on the planet or something?
Yep.
From this one company. Like
Yep.
Was that news correct? Did OpenAI buy OpenClaw?
Oh, yeah. So this is a daily brief. Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying I thought they did. Yeah, I thought I read that.
I didn't hear that.
They bought him. They bought Peter Steinberger, essentially. OpenClaw itself is going to be owned by a foundation that so it's going to stay open source. But OpenClaw, so OpenClaw is going to be owned by a foundation specifically for OpenClaw. Peter now works in some fashion for OpenAI to help push their personal agents kind of agenda. But yeah, this is a daily agent brief that like happened yesterday. And some of this stuff wasn't breaking. This happened like a week or two ago. This happened last week. But it is very like, this is an agent brief that I told it to make for me about AI agents in general. And this is very accurate. Like Manus is top of like the headlines right now. Perplexity is top of the headlines right now. It's doing like a comparison on a whole bunch of them as well, which is really helpful for me. So this is actually something that like is useful. And I think it's actually a website, so I could turn this into a website, but yeah, there's like a whole brief here that I've given it to build this for me.
You'll be curious because it seems like super agent functionality is built into HyperAgent. There's, like you could almost kind of do what super agent does inside of here. It'd be interesting to see how they support both those products.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. A lot of people are talking about command centers as well with AI agents right now. Like, how do you keep track of all of your agents? Like, so there's like a running list of like all of your agents here. What things like need your attention is like super important. And so let's see what this says here. So like HyperAgent is actually really cool in that as you start to talk to it, it starts to suggest some things. So like, okay, should we have like a guest brief? Like, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's take that. Should we do what else? Like, that's cool. Let's dismiss that. And so again, like it's just this layer into your AI agents that like doesn't make it as like ethereal and like theoretical. It's much more like, okay, this is actually what's fueling my agents right now, which is exciting to like have that visibility. And then it gets into things like rubrics and evals, which when you talk about LLMs in general and training LLMs, and a lot of people are talking about, well, I could use Minimax or some of these other like open source or local models versus using OpenAI or Anthropic's models. And you can certainly do that, and then you aren't necessarily burning cloud tokens to do that. But if you're running your own local models, it's very important for you to train your own local models, because if it's local, it means no one has access to it. There's training that has gone into that model in general, but it's only being trained on what you're training it on. And so AI in general is like, it only gets better if it knows what's right and what's wrong. And so that comes, that goes into the idea of like these evaluations and rubrics and things. So it's cool that like a lot of these core fundamental concepts of AI are built into HyperAgents to kind of learn about AI in general without having to go out and just do research. And you can kind of learn by clicking buttons, which is fun.
This kind of reminds me of like the more like analog, so to speak, parallel in my brain is like, and just that page in particular, the rubric thing. And like, have you ever done like an email parser, like a Zapier parser, and like you can go in and just like keep redoing the template over and over again to like train it to be like, no, like it's this line, like over and over again. Like it keeps getting it wrong. You have to keep highlighting the token. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that. It's like nudging it in that direction.
Definitely.
Have they announced pricing for this, or is it free during beta?
Right now it's free.
You spent $1.46.
Yeah, where's my $1.46? Yeah, I believe it's free during beta right now. Where's the pricing? There was a billing early adopter, free to use HyperAgent. Appreciate your feedback. But there's a pricing details for you right there. So kind of similar standard.
So pretty standard AI price points.
Yeah.
Oh, they've got a pay as you go as well. Interesting. Cool. Yeah, this will be interesting. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. I don't know how they're deciding who gets access. I know in our community, people are like, I'm in, and others are like, I'm not. So I don't know if it's random or Rob's on the VIP list.
I'm begging. I'm at the front door, like knocking and hitting I'm ding, not leaving.
Yep.
So,
Awesome. Well, let's move on. Okay, I know. Let's look at some stuff you've built. So you built some cool stuff. I think it might be worthwhile to explain, the technical aspects. Yeah. Why don't we start here? Talk about we mentioned it, but show us what you built.
Okay. Cool. So what you're looking at here, if I just launch this just so it looks as pretty as possible, because that's important, is this like Airtable Fantasy Olympics custom interface. And this is live online. One of the cool things about interface pages in general is that some interface pages have the ability to be published to the web and you don't have to have Airtable access to it, which is super cool. Custom interfaces is one of those interfaces that you can do that. And so everything you're seeing here was all, as you guys already talked about, like was all vibe coded. And it has, upcoming, like the actual games themselves, the countries themselves, what medals they've won, as well as on the right hand side here, we can see there was like this opportunity to make your picks to see who you thought were going to win what medals and everything. And so it's kind of cool to see that the community has actually been like engaging here. I probably should vibe code this to like say the Olympics are over. But as of right now, it's all kind of just live like this. And then it was cool. The idea behind this whole thing was not only to like create an inspiration of like, holy cow, like this is all built on top of Airtable, but also that it's possible to build this on Airtable, and it's possible to like whenever we're building in general, it all starts in like the data, and having clean data is always a luxury. And so what we ended up doing at the bottom here is giving all these data sets out for anyone to use. So you could open up and sync any of the tables that I built and are keeping up to date, and build something like build your own custom interface with it. So it was kind of cool to see like someone created like a comic strip generator, and we should be able to actually open it up as well. And these are like comic strips of all the athletes, which is really cool. Let's see if it opens.
Yeah, we showed this on a podcast. Okay. We saw.
Yeah,
I would show it again, but yeah.
No, it's fine. So some people made some games, which was cool. There was this globe of all the countries, which was cool. That someone this guy here made this, which was really cool. Someone made like a Tinder app as well, where you could like swipe through the athletes like Tinder style, which was kind of funny. We didn't necessarily put that in, but yeah. So everything here was all built with Claude Code as my kind of thought partner in the background, and I really used Claude as well as some specific skills to be able to help me go through the brainstorming process and go through the like PRD process and go through the feature process of this all the way through to like actually pushing things to GitHub as well. So if we like, you can even open it up on GitHub and see on GitHub, like this is the actual code base for what I just showed. And so you can see like the two contributors, Claude and myself, Claude being the primary contributor. But yeah, I definitely just felt like it was a great opportunity to use AI to just help me move faster and to keep things organized and make sure that things were easy to read, for example. And so, yeah, I don't know, you guys have any questions about that so far?
Yeah, I'll put the link to that in here as well.
Yeah, and like one thing I'll just highlight is like the Airtable MCP server. There's an Airtable MCP server that this guy here, Dom, I'm assuming his name is Dom Egg, Adam Jones. There you go. So he works for Anthropic, and so he's put out an MCP server for Airtable, which is great, and he keeps it pretty up to date. 5 days ago, it was released. So you can pretty much do anything that the API can do. This MCP server can do, which is really cool.
Explain MCP. We've talked about it in the past, but give your explanation of what it is.
So the couple analogies I've heard is like it's the USB-C for APIs and AIs in general. So it's there's two core differences between an MCP. There's core differences between MCPs and APIs. APIs, if we just look at the like APIs in general, there's documentation for APIs, and then there's the actual like written API of the code base in the backend. And you have to, if you want to know what an API can do, you go to the documentation, you look through the documentation, you look through sample payloads and stuff like that to learn about what it can do. And so I can just quickly open up like the API documentation for this specific base. But you have to know how to work your way around API documentation. And then if you do, you can make API calls to your data sets or to this tool, to this application, and get information in and out of it. But MCP, essentially there is no documentation. The documentation is built into the MCP. And so if you want to know what an MCP can do, the MCP has a specific set of tools that it can do. So you can point your AI to an MCP, and you don't have to worry about pointing it to documentation and matching documentation or anything like that. So it's like, it's cool because it happens in real time, as opposed to needing to make sure that the documentation is up to date to the API. And I'm sure like we all have experienced it when the documentation is not actually what the API actually returns, and how frustrating that is. You have to like manage and keep track of both. So yeah, is that a decent interpretation?
Cool. Yeah. What? Yeah. You're going to show us the project using it. You want to show us that?
Using the MCPs, using the Airtable MCP. So I can open up, let me do this. Let me just open up a Warp terminal real quick. Actually, I can do it here. That's totally fine. Can you see my Warp, or are you just seeing my browser? Can you see
in browser?
My fault. 1 second. Whoa.
Hello.
Hello, crazy. Let's share my screen. Here we go. Okay. Can you see Warp here?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. So as you can see, like I actually used Claude Code to just kind of like identify some talking points for this specific podcast, which was pretty cool. What you're looking at is Warp, which is a terminal that allows you to interact with things like Claude Code. And so if I just type /clear, you can see like now we're in Claude Code. And the nice thing about Warp is that you have all of like your documents on the left-hand side here. So this is like a folder that I'm in right now on my computer. This is the actual terminal. And then, so I can say so if in Claude, if I do /MCP, you can see here that these are all of the MCPs that are either installed on this project at a user level or at a Claude level themselves. So you can see I have the Airtable MCP that's installed and connected on this specific project. So I can escape out of this and say, show me my tables. And it should. Everything happens, everything should work perfectly. But this should essentially do a call to the Airtable MCP. So you can see it loaded context here. Okay, so it's running list tables MCP call on my specific table. This is my base ID that's saved within the context of this specific Olympics app. And you can see here, like, okay, here's 14 tables that are within the Winter Olympics fantasy base. And so all I had to do was say, show me my tables. And it knew all the context that it needed to know that what tables, what base I was even talking about. This specific MCP server only has a personal access token to only this specific base as well. So it doesn't, like, if I were to give it a base ID of some other base ID and say, what tables are in this base? It should error out completely and say, I don't have access to that base, which is a, kind of a good general best practice. So from here, you can do you can do so many things. Like, I think you can say, what can you do with the MCP from Airtable? But yeah, anyone, any questions about the Airtable MCP?
This is just King's Quest.
Exactly. The dopamine of like playing games and the dopamine of using AI and like Claude is exactly the same. It's just like never ending. Like, oh my gosh, I can keep going. I can keep going. I can keep going.
What you can't
That's cool.
do.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it's like an interesting highlight to point out here with this MCP is that it can do, there's this MCP, Airtable themselves have an MCP server, and then there's like Omni, which is Airtable's, like AI, and they all do different things. So this MCP server can do pretty much anything that the actual public API can do. So it can do things like create tables, it can update tables, update fields, all that stuff, but like it can't create a new base. Because the public API, you can't create a new base with the API. You have to create that base, right? So this MCP is the most comfortable to me because I'm the most comfortable with the public API. The Airtable MCP server, which is the one that's actually built into ChatGPT, and for example, like you can load up ChatGPT and link up your Airtable. That MCP can only read from your Airtable, I think. It can't actually write anything. It can't create tables. So it's kind of like a more locked down MCP that's in the Airtable one. And then the beauty about Omni is that Omni can do a whole bunch of things that like neither MCPs can do and the public API can't do. And so as I was going through this process of building this Olympics app, there were times where I would say, and I can say like, show me a plan for Omni that I created, that AI created, that works. It's funny how easy I'm like typing AI and I at the same time. But there were times where I had Claude actually come up with an Omni prompt for me, because Omni can do things that these things can't do. And so things like building interfaces, building automations, building certain fields that aren't possible to be built with the API was super, super helpful. So I kind of like used Claude for some things, I use Omni for some things, and then I use just like domain experience and like domain expertise for other things. And there's a lot of times where, you know, okay, here you go. Like there's some interesting things, like a plan that Airtable's, where is it? Oh, the landing page. Like, so there's a plan here, an implementation guide, like document for the landing page specifically. And so I could, if I wanted to, just actually pull this entire document and give this entire document to Omni and let Omni build this entire thing, which was pretty cool. So
yeah, I wish Omni had a public API or MCP server.
I would hope it's close. Like I would hope it's close. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And just a correction, you can create a base through the public API. So I'm surprised that the MCP doesn't expose that.
I forget exactly what it is. I know this is for enterprises, but the enterprise API, you can create a managed app instance, which creates a base. But there's got to be some other endpoint that just give me an empty base. It's weird if it can't.
That's where those like AI agents that are doing like the constant research every single night is like actually been super helpful, you know, because things change. Like that's actually one of the most helpful things that I've found with AI is like, I just give it some GitHub repos. I give it some like tools that I use, and I just have it do research for me on a routine basis. And this isn't something that like you could do this in Airtable. Like you could do all this like web research actually in Airtable. It doesn't have to be something super complex, but with so much new stuff happening, it's so hard to stay on top of things and actually deliver value and like, yeah, like deliver value as like a human in this world, you know, to keep track of all this stuff gets exhausting for sure.
So talk about the skills repo that you have. Like, what does that add on top of what
yeah, for sure. So one of the things that was extremely frustrating was the simple fact that not everything, like admittedly, I wish that Airtable's MCP and or the documentation for what Airtable can and cannot do was in a more central location. There's some things that like aren't documented at all. There's some things that are new. There's some things that have old documentation to it. And so there were times where like either Claude or Omni, I think, was it you, Ali, that had posted something of like, I just taught Omni that it couldn't do something that it thought it could do, or I don't know. Was that you?
Maybe that happens all the time where it's like, I mean, my clients will come to me and they'll be like, well, ChatGPT said that it can work. And I'm like, no, it can't. Or like, it'll kind of get them halfway there, but not quite. Like, it's just, yeah. It's sometimes.
I've seen formulas that Omni builds and I'm not impressed yet.
Yeah, exactly. So what, so real quick, as I was actually building this interface, I was also building my own Airtable skills for Claude Code. So these are a bunch of skills. There's a handful of skills here that you can just go and download off my GitHub repository and install in your own Claude Code. And you can see that there's actually other people that are contributing to it now. So shout out to Andrew Mitchell. He's been contributing to these skills as well, which is super helpful. Ultimately, like the goal of this repository and the goal of these skills is to be able to go into something like Claude. And if you do Airtable, these are my specific Airtable skills. So if I just wanted to do like a field audit, for example, on this base, I can just do my Airtable field audit skill. And obviously there's some opinions that I have injected into these skills that you can take and do on your own. Like, go for it. So I'm just going to say, so this is going to walk me through the process of like, what do you want me to field audit? So I'm going to say like, do my entire base, right? Like, let's do a field audit on my entire base. And so there's a series of prompts that this will go through. And each individual skill has some prompts that it goes through, and it has other skills that it knows about and everything. And so right now it's going through, it's auditing this entire base. And so as we can see here, I'll just pull open the actual base itself, just so we can keep everyone honest here. So there's like, what's nice is that like Claude Code and the MCP has put like descriptions for every single one of my fields. Every single one of my tables has like really nice, neat, built-in documentation. And so if anything, as you're building Airtables with or without AI help, just linking up the MCP server and hopping into Claude Code and saying like, I need help documenting like my entire Airtable. Ask me a bunch of questions and I'll give you answers, and then like go for it. It just helps so much for those things that just would normally take a lot of time, or quite honestly, like I would just skip. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So skills are kind of like the next evolution of, and Claude's the one that kind of defined it. Others are starting to adopt it. So it's kind of becoming the standard now. It's basically a way to like, the way I view it is, in theory, you could create MCP endpoints that do what skills do, but skills run locally and don't use the credits as much. Yeah.
Yep. And I will just plug as well, like Claude Academy, I think is what it's called. I know that like, I don't know, everyone has like their opinions about Airtable Academy and all that stuff. I think the Airtable Academy is incredible, but the Anthropic Academy just came out like a couple of weeks ago, and it's like a wildly in-depth actual academy that you can go through to learn about Claude from like end to end. And so if you're trying to learn about Claude and you're trying to learn about AI and what things can happen, and here's the thing about agent skills, that's what got me thinking about this. Like, if you want to learn how to build agent skills, I'm not going to be able to teach you better than this.
Cool.
So
yeah, so that's kind of the next evolution of that, to the point where, I was, as I've been kind of processing this, skills, it used to be you like would create like these mini agents that had their context, and you'd have like lots of different, agents that did different things. Now you don't create multiple agents. You just kind of have your one like master agent that is exposed to different skills, and the skills take it, essentially like tell the agent what to do for that specific use case.
Exactly.
That's
and so you can see here, like this just did a little field audit for me. It like changed some fields, and that's cool. And I could say like add my emoji prefixes to like everything as well, and I can like add emoji. So one of the things that like I use this a lot for is to like, this specific skill is for creating formula fields or like lookup fields and rollup fields. I'll have it actually create the field and then put a little emoji in the beginning of the field. I'll go into manage all my fields. I'll like search for that emoji, so it only will show me fields with that little emoji in it. And then I can go in and I can actually change a long text field or a single line text field, which is just like the default that it gets created to. And it'll say like, change this to, right here, like change, like formula, change this to round. So I'll literally just go in, copy this like that, come in here, paste this here, as you can see I've done, and then like just hit enter. And so and you can see like things are getting created here right now. Claude is doing a whole bunch of stuff right there. So, but yeah, that's just like some of the things that the Airtable skills can do. It also will tell you if it can and cannot do some certain things, which is super helpful, as opposed to like it getting into these infinite loops of, oh, I can do this. It's like, it has a little bit of documentation in terms of what it can and cannot actually do.
Metadata has been the theme of the season. I have been loving it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's inspired me. I've been building stuff on that point as well. So very useful. Awesome. Thank you, Rob, for coming on. Exciting stuff. And we'll be hearing from Rob in the future, I'm sure, keeping us up to date on all the latest and greatest. So appreciate it. And that concludes this season. We'll be back next month. We might have some special episodes during the next month, especially with the community hackathon. Want to promote that, so everybody check it out. The link's in the notes, and submit your play. I don't know, Rob, you're going to submit your Olympics? You can put that in there. That's playful enough, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe there's I don't know. Maybe something else will percolate up. And I'll put something else in there. So
very cool. Great. Everybody have a great week and month, and we will be back next time. Take care.
Sounds good. See you, everyone.
Thank you for joining today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out our sponsor, OntoAir Backups, automated backups for Airtable. We'll see you next time on the Built on Air podcast.